Good morning. It is time to skip the BS. It is time for Undisputed. It is time for time, as Michael Irvin calls Deion Primetime Sanders. It is time to talk about Coach Prime and about Michael's Dallas Cowboys. Michael isn't in today. He's back tomorrow, but I spent a ton of time with and around Jerry Jones for the 3 books I wrote about the Dallas Cowboys. Keyshawn Johnson played for the Cowboys, and he knows Jerry maybe all too well. And Richard Sherman might be the most objective voice at this table because he did not play for the Cowboys, but he did play for Seattle, San Francisco, and Tampa Bay. So are you guys ready to try to translate some Jerry with me today?
Let's do it.
Not all that easy.
Let's do it.
Here we go. You see Jerry hiring Coach Prime?
Absolutely. If it ever gets to that point, why not, right? But there's a couple things at play here, because you're sitting here, you're trying to figure out why did he insert himself into the Deion conversation. Well, I got to get a little bit of that cake too. With this Colorado thing.
Right.
I think everybody else getting a little bit of this cake.
I
want to get a little bit of this cake while it's hot and fresh at Colorado. So if I mention Deion now, guess what? I'm bringing a little bit of that light over to these Dallas Cowboys too.
Yeah.
On top of that, when you look at the situation with Deion and the Dallas Cowboys, if Deion is at University of Colorado and he's continuing to win, Jerry Jones will not be the only front office executive owner that is looking and eyeing at him as a potential replacement if jobs become available. Now, it's interesting because it's the Dallas Cowboys. We brought it up on the show. Michael and myself, I think Richard was the first to actually mention it.
He was.
And so we started having this conversation. And now that conversation has caught lightning. And now people are going to start to, connect the dots as much as they can. Because in order for Mike McCarthy to keep his job, just this year, is for the Dallas Cowboys to get at least to the NFC Championship.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm. If that doesn't happen, everybody's going to come a-calling and screaming and want him out. Dan Quinn is sitting there on the sidelines, which could potentially be the next head coach if possible. But maybe Dan doesn't want the job. Maybe he says, I just want to be defensive coordinator again. I don't want to keep. Maybe that's the deal. But if it ever becomes available, he certainly is catapulted Richard to the top in terms of names being mentioned. Deion to the Cowboys.
No question. I totally agree with that. What I would say is the only thing that would hold that back is Jerry's gravity. Jerry's
agreed.
Because the only coach in any sport right now that could outshine Jerry Jones and come into Jerry's world and people come to the stadium and be like, excuse me, Jerry, Prime, hey, Prime, can I get a picture?
Yeah.
Is Prime. Prime, people would come to see Prime. Jerry loves the attention. Jerry loves to be the center of attention. Have you ever gone out to pregame and doing your warm-ups and doing catching the balls on the sideline and doing your thing and saw an owner in your way taking pictures with 15 people? That's what you're going to get with Jerry. We were in Seattle. He's on our sideline taking pictures in the middle of our drills. We're like, man, if you don't get out the way, but he is the show in Dallas. He is the guy that wants to do interviews. You don't see a lot of owners doing interviews and press conferences. When's the last time you heard of Haslam or Pagula doing an interview for their teams? You don't hear that. But in Dallas, you hear it from Jerry. So I don't think that Jerry would hire Deion because it would take the spotlight from Jerry. He would overshadow Jerry in Jerry's world, and he ain't having that.
Okay. I thought that from the start. And I believe you did start all this, right? You brought it up first. Then you went Atlanta, I believe, with Arthur
Atlanta,
Blank.
Washington.
Yeah, okay, Washington was another one. All of those could be in play for sure. There could be 6 or 8 in play if this actually came to pass. Jerry Jones has come from nowhere. This hick from the quote-unquote sticks in Arkansas, this interloper, this outsider who basically stole the Dallas Cowboys because he bought the stock when it was nothing at that point when they were 1-15.
Right.
Or they were about to be one of their 3-13 the previous year. And from that, he jump-started himself and itself and became the most famous owner in the history of sports, and it ain't even close. I know once upon a time it was George Steinbrenner and the Yankees, but this guy owns America's team and the most valuable team in all the world, including all the soccer teams in Europe. This is the most valuable franchise. He is the face of it. He has not one but 2 radio shows. He conducts a media interview after every game. No owner ever conducts an interview after a game. Right. He is the owner and the general manager. He lives and breathes Dallas Cowboys. His family will own this team till death do us all part. They're going to own it forever and ever. They'll just keep creating new generations of Jerrys, right? It'll be Steven, then it'll be his son. It'll just keep on keeping on. The point is, Jerry has talked openly and often about his mortality, that he sees his window personally on this earth starting to close as he approaches 80 years of age. So at some point, he's going to wake up and say, if Mike McCarthy is not the answer, I'm hoping against hope that he is the answer this year. But if he's not the answer, and probably he won't prove to be the long-term answer, there might come a point when Jerry says, I got to try this one more time, because he tried it once. Did he not try it once?
Oh, yeah.
He tried it with a guy you know better than anybody.
But he got in the way. They were headed.
Okay.
The program was headed in the right direction.
Okay, Bill Parcells takes over and brings along Keyshawn Johnson, and you're there for a couple of years. And all of a sudden, Jerry says, you know what, I just can't help myself. There's this guy available that I can go get, and he's better get your popcorn ready. He's Terrell Owens.
Yeah.
He's T.O., as I called him, Team Obliterator, but that's a whole nother issue. But the point was, all of a sudden, Jerry starts to meddle and get in the way of somebody you cannot get in the way of, because you know Bill better than anybody. He is his own man above all own men who ever coached in this sport, right?
Yes.
And finally, even Bill said, I can't deal with this anymore, because he wouldn't even call Terrell by his name. He just called him the player, right? Okay. So here we have another circumstance, yet Jerry did not know Bill. He did until they started to work together. They didn't really know each other at all. Jerry is trying to tell you, I know this man because he was one of my players for 5 years, and we got very close. And he even went so far, and you got to interpret this, but he says, I'm a product of Deion. I'm not sure. Half the time, I don't know what Jerry's talking about.
I think he's talking about from the personality, the swag, because Jerry has swag, right? He has what I would call certain leadership skills.
He does.
Because he controls a lot with the owners.
Yeah.
Think about it just from a tongue-in-cheek standpoint. Dude goes and buys a super yacht.
Right.
Billionaire yacht. The next thing you know, 3 or 4 owners in the league, they gonna go buy and compete with Jerry.
Right.
That's the type of influence that he has.
Okay.
I mean, I just don't know, though, because of everything you just said. Unless the Cowboys are in a spot where they're falling into obscurity, where they're like, hey, they're 3-13, and I don't see that they got too talented of a team. But if they're falling into a spot where nobody's talking about them, everybody's like, hey.
They gonna always, man, they were talking about the Cowboys is bad.
Right. But if they ever get to the point, he's going to find a reason to get him talked about again. And that's where I'd see them hiring Prime. But if they get rid of McCarthy, I think Dan Quinn is the
I
obvious
got
pick.
that. What does Jerry love the most? He loves box office.
Box office.
My issue with Jerry all along has been, I think he loves box office even more than he loves winning football games, or at least winning championships, because it's been 27 years since they even played in an NFC championship game. So all of a sudden, you have an opportunity to kill 2 birds with the same big old stone from Colorado, because you can go box office and win, because for Jerry to repeat the line, he's a hell of a coach. He's a hell of a coach. Jerry is sold on Deion's ability to run the show, to be the overseer. I said the other day on Big Noon Saturday, you coach the energy. Well, he coaches a little more, but you get what I'm saying. He pushes all the right buttons in the locker room.
Absolutely.
But the beauty of Deion as the head coach is, he's got a superstar coaching staff. You've called it the best in college football.
To me.
And, well, to me also. And the point of that is that those guys love coaching for him because he allows them to do
coach.
their jobs within their areas,
Absolutely.
right? If Dan Quinn is starting to show me that, because he's highly compensated, I think he's as well paid. Well, I don't know the exact number, but I think it's up there with any head coach in the ballpark, because he could have been a head coach 2 or 3 times in the past 2 or 3 years. But the point of this is, Dan Quinn seems content coaching what I think is the best defense in pro football. So why wouldn't he be content being the sort of assistant head coach to Deion Sanders.
Well, I think he could be content on that. What happens is, both of you guys know, when you are looking for a head coaching job and you've been a head coach before, it has to be the right fit. Right? You say, well, there's only 32 of them available. 32 head coaching jobs. You got to take one. Well, he's already been a head coach. You got to make sure, number one, you got a quarterback. Can't just take a job, right? You got to make sure that the owner is the right fit for you. So when you look at Dan Quinn's situation, yes, he's had a number of interviews, but maybe those interviews just, when you leave the building, you go, you know what, man, this is just not for me. I'd rather be the assistant head coach, defensive coordinator, bring Deion along, give him some head coaching experience as far as the staff goes that's been in the NFL along with his other guys. Maybe that's the case. I don't think that it's going to be a problem, though, with Deion and Jerry sharing the spotlight, because the spotlight is big either way. Jerry's going to get his sideline pictures. That's just what it is. The biggest problem that Jerry has is when it's going good, he starts to meddle in the personnel and the play calling and who should be on the field. That's the problem with him. It's not the attention. The attention is always going to be there.
I agree with you there. I agree that Dan Quinn would be a great addition to Deion's staff if that's what they went with. I just don't. First off, I don't see Deion leaving right now. Because of the situation. I think we'll talk about it later. But I think with his opportunity at Colorado and the opportunity to get better, transfer portal, Shador comes back, that team next year, Travis Hunter, et cetera, it's too good of an opportunity.
Maybe it ain't. Maybe it's not this year. Maybe it's 2025, and he says, "Hey, my sons are here. They're coming back. Boom, boom, boom. We got a chance to make a run, and maybe Mike McCarthy gets to the NFC Championship game and saves the job."
If he finds a way to get Deion to Dallas, then Deion will find a way to get Shador to Dallas, just like Deion has found a way to get Shador everywhere else he's gone.
Dak Prescott.
I mean, I'm just saying, that's the truth of what's going to happen.
Now you're getting me really excited.
He's bringing his luggage, and it's Louis.
Unbelievable.
It's Louis.
Okay, but here's the point. I was with you and your stance on this from the start. I thought there's no way that Jerry would ever share the stage with that guy. But I'm starting to get excited about it because that guy is the guy. And Jerry knows the guy is the guy.
Yeah.
There is only one Deion Sanders. He is one of one. He's got magic to him. He's got revolutionary to him. He's doing it his way. And Jerry gravitates to people who do it their way and brings that. Listen, you think the profile of the Dallas Cowboys is huge right now? If you brought Deion plus Jerry,
just look what Deion just did to Colorado and Jackson State
overnight.
You just mentioned it. If he was to ever be a Cowboy coach in the next couple of years, that number's going up for the Cowboys. It's just going up.
Hey,
the revenue's going up.
Hey, I believe Deion is so gifted at leadership and people skills. I've never been around anybody with better people skills. He's got genius with people, pushing the right buttons with kids or adults. He can handle the athletic director and the president and the boosters and the media and these kids. And he would be able to coach some pro football players more like their kids than you would think.
He'd have such a regard. These players will regard him. They will respect him in a way that I mean, maybe they respect Mike McCarthy, but they don't regard Mike McCarthy. It's different. They look at Deion, what he's saying, his words as gold. That's the gospel. You walk into that room, it's quiet. It's eyes up. You see uninspired speeches all the time. You saw it. I think it was
Mike McCarthy.
I mean, Mike McCarthy. Sometimes it was like a clip Gannon that showed Gannon giving a speech to his team, and it just looked like guys ready to go.
It's just flat. You see guys and their eyes are roaming.
But when Deion's speaking, you're like, they're on the edge of their seats, like hanging on every word, and that motivates, that inspires. And those guys go out there and perform. They're doing it right now. And these kids, sometimes they're outmatched, sometimes they're outgunned, and they go out there and overachieve for Deion.
There's certain people in society in general it's hard to say no to. It's just hard to say no. And Deion is one of those guys that is hard to say no to. If he needs you to do something, you're not going, well, man, I got a 6 o'clock. No, you're going to try to figure out how to move it around to get to that. And when you think about free agency, Jerry doesn't mind spending money. We all know he he will pay people. It's going to be hard for people to say no to Deion Sanders if he's there as the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. The checkbook is open. They can manipulate the salary cap any way in which they want. But if they say, if they want to say, hey, I want to go get T. Higgins, in Atlanta saying, T. Higgins, we going to pay you more. And Deion is sitting right there, chances are Deion's going to win that for a little less money because it's just hard to say no.
I keep telling you guys, there's one, I used to say this about Brady all the time. When he was playing football, I would say there's one guy in the NFL I don't bet against, and it's that guy, and you played with him and you saw him up close and personal. In life as well as football, there's another guy I don't bet against, and it's this guy, Deion, because everything he has touched in his life has turned to gold. He has made everything work from television to commercials, to show me where he has failed. He does not fail. So if you put him with a very good football team that just needs to be pushed over the top a little bit by a motivator, and my problem with Mike McCarthy, going back a couple of years ago to the Hard Knocks series, we got to go way behind the scenes and watch the quote-unquote motivational speeches of Mike McCarthy. There's one before an Arizona preseason game, and I'm saying, what are you doing, Mike? He's treating it like it's the Super Bowl. And they're looking, you could just see the players looking sideways like, what's he saying? Because nobody cares. They tune him out. His motivational speeches were among the worst I've ever seen, to the point that I started asking, I don't even know what this guy does, because he had ceded all the play calling to Kellen Moore. At least now he's doing something. And I'm not sure it's going to work yet, because we got a long way to go. So far, so good. Maybe he is a better play caller for Dak Prescott than Kellen Moore was. Maybe his philosophy and his approach is going to be more conducive to Dak being to maximizing his potential. So I appreciate all that. But in the end, your game is played with raw emotion. I don't care what you say. And you too. I'm looking at two who played with some of the rawest emotion I've ever witnessed. You especially. And when you got going, your fire burned hot. And sometimes it burned a little too hot. So did yours occasionally, but it's what fueled both of you. It's rocket fuel. Your game, more than basketball or baseball or even hockey, whatever it's emotional, right?
Yeah.
If one team is readier to play on Sunday than the other team, I'm telling you, it's a huge edge on the football field.
Sometimes the talent don't even matter. But to Keyshawn's point, and I really want to harp on this because that was a great point, the gravity of Deion Sanders, the gravity, his effect, his influence transcends generation. I mean, it goes from babies born in 2005 to people born in 1965. Like, it's everybody's influence. So what he's talking about in, like, recruiting in college, I can't imagine what that transfer portal going to look like next year for his team, and how many Ohio State kids, how many Alabama kids, Georgia kids that aren't getting to play.
Might even be a USC kid.
A USC.
I want to go to Colorado.
Gotta go there. But in the NFL, you're talking about professionals. You're talking about guys who want to win a championship.
Absolutely.
And you're talking about Deion being able to have a conversation and say, hey, look, they going to give you $10 million. I got 8 for you. Yeah. But I can tell you what, my star power, the star power in Dallas, the star, all this other stuff, I can get you to 12. I can get you the sponsorships. I can get you the acclaim. I guarantee you come over here, we win this championship, we go on a run, you're going to get more money. He's going to get the player. That's a great point.
All great head coaches in this league are motivators. Every last one. If you are, think about it, when the guys that we have considered great head coaches, not they won a Super Bowl, I'm talking about the Mike Tomlins of the world.
I agree.
Great
that's
motivator.
a good point. That's a good one.
Bill Parcells was a great motivator in a different way. It was just a different way, but he was sarcastic and said little tongue-in-cheek things to you that got you going, okay, all right. And so when you think about the great coaches, this is something that he brings to the table as a motivator, right? He simply motivates. Urban Meyer, for all of his worth, when he was at Ohio State, he was such a motivator that it got guys just constantly going where their engines are going.
By the way, there's a great Netflix documentary up about Urban and Tebow at Florida, and you get to see way behind the scenes of Urban.
And that's you're going to win. You're going to win a lot of games with the right motivator.
Right.
You know, and Urban may have failed at the NFL level with his motivational tactics because that wasn't it. Different than Deion.
Right.
Deion doesn't come like that. His is more conversational, teaching because he's been there before. And players, believe it or not, Skip, players respect other players that did it at a high level.
Yep.
The problem with the NFL is we haven't really had head coaches that did it at the highest level, right? It's just been guys who might have been a backup or guys who played a little bit, but that's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
You have never seen or will have never seen a guy at this level, at the Hall of Fame, the best to ever do it, coach a bunch of grown men in the pros that's making millions of dollars, respond to Deion the way that I think they would.
And I'm telling you, I think the reason I think Deion might do it is because he loves to be the at the head of something. He loves to be the groundbreaking innovator.
Absolutely.
And he would break open, because he's doing it for college football right now.
Yeah.
And if he could do it for college football, he'd do it for the NFL. And you're talking about a guy who would open doors for black head coaches and black men to have more opportunities to show, hey, this is different than you've ever seen it. Unconventional, but it's still effective.
Yeah, and by the way, speaking of different, Michael Irvin and Lil Wayne have pointed out to me, pre-game locker room ahead of these Colorado games, as Michael says, it's like you're in the club. You got a DJ there.
Mike would know.
Okay, well, he would know. But this is shattering the mold.
Yeah.
And yet the point is, as Urban pointed out on Big Noon Saturday a couple of weeks back, or maybe no, it was this past Saturday, he's watched carefully the practices run by Deion and staff. They are old school, structured, hardcore, down to the second, boom, 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 we're going to do it this way. They are doing it the right way. They are prepared for the football game. And then in the moments before, Deion's going to let everybody get hyped for the game in ways that other coaches will not allow you to get ready for the game psychologically and emotionally. Okay, will that translate? Yes, it will.
That's so funny you say that, because some coaches, they will literally tell you to turn off the music in the locker room.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Like, what? Turn off the music? Man, if you don't go in the coach's locker room and get the hell
Get out of my way. You not playing?
Yeah.
Come on. Yeah. So I got mixed emotions about this because it almost makes me want to root against Mike McCarthy this year, but I won't. Okay. Up next, speaking of Deion, let's get back to something very serious. Deion Sanders condemns Henry Blackburn receiving death threats for the Travis Hunter hit. We will get deeply into that in just a moment here on Undisputed.
Man.
Thanks for watching, Undisputed fans. Do you want more highlights from the show? Make sure to click that subscribe button for all the exclusive content from Undisputed.